Welcome to I Got a Guy podcast, a podcast carefully designed to introduce a wide range of very talented and highly skilled professionals ready to share their knowledge and advice with you. Please welcome the host of I Got a Guy podcast, Michael Drelichars.
Hello, and welcome to I Got a Guy podcast. I'm your host, Michael Drelichars. Thank you so much for joining us again this week. We really appreciate the attention, the subscribing, the comments that we get from you. Always welcome more thoughts and comments, feedback, and thoughts about how you've enjoyed our guests and how they've been able to help your business. Uh, each week we do bring a different guest to the show to kind of highlight their business, and the goal really here is to promote small businesses. I firmly believe that small business is the foundation of our country, and there's so many small businesses employing lots of employees and people around the area, and it really helps everything kind of go and grow. So we want to do all we can to help grow small businesses. My business, Precise Fleet Tracking, is a small business as well, and we're just looking for ways to help each other out. So this week is really no different. As you know, this show was born out of reading a book called The Go Giver. Bob Burke wrote a great little book about giving referrals and how it's the core, the nucleus of growing a business. So if you haven't checked out The Go Giver, I encourage you to check it out. I downloaded it on Audible and listened to it with some frequency. It's a great story, great set of stories, I should say, that really kind of highlight the whole concept. And if you are new to I Got a Guy podcast, you might check out our past episodes. I encourage you to go to igotaguypodcast.com. That's igotaguypodcast.com for a list of all of our past episodes, and you can listen to them, and you can also watch them. I do record the audio and the video. We put the videos up on YouTube and on Rumble, so feel free to go to either of those platforms and watch the episode if that's more convenient for you. We do post on the screen the phone numbers of our guests and email addresses, etc. So if that helps you, by all means, utilize that tool. But igotaguypodcast.com is the website. And if you want to be a future guest, fill out the pop-up that comes up about Let's Connect, and just populate your name, email address, and a quick message. They'll come right to me, and we'll have a conversation. So look forward to meeting all sorts of new people and helping everyone's business grow. So we're gonna shift now, and we're gonna focus in on our guest this week. So as I've mentioned, the book The Go Giver was our inspiration, and he outlines 5 laws of stratospheric success. And the one that I think really mirrors our guest this week is called the law of authenticity. It's defined by the most valuable gift you have to give is yourself. The most valuable gift you have to give is yourself. I think as you get to know our guest this week, you'll understand how that really mirrors up with his personality and the personality of their business. I've been a client of theirs for many years, and very excited to be part of that company. And so, without any further ado, allow me to introduce our guest this week, Kevin Burke from Cornerstone National Bank. Kevin.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for being here. We appreciate your attention today, and I'm anxious to hear more about Cornerstone Bank, your background. You've been in the bank now for a few years, and focus on the commercial banking. But when we start with that, when we start with just tell us a little bit about Cornerstone, and how it's different than that when we think of banking. There's a lot of big names out there, but the small banks don't get quite the recognition that they need to get. So tell us a little bit about Cornerstone and how you guys are different.
Yeah, I think that's kind of where Cornerstone comes in, is where you have the large banks, the large names, Chase, Fifth Third, everything, BMO, everything like that. But our founders actually came from there, and they founded Cornerstone over 20 years ago, built on the principle that they were just sick and tired of being a number in the banking world where if their bank was doing poorly, another bank would come in and just buy them up. So they had gone through a few mergers. I believe they were at Harris, and they finally were fed up. They were done with their third merger, and they were like, you know what? I'm gonna go start my own bank. So that's actually exactly what they did. It was pretty impressive. They were able to build it up to about $1 billion in assets over the last 24 years, but it's really been built on the sole principle of we're going to be a relationship bank because that's the way we want to be treated by our institution, as well as how we want to treat our customers and everything like that. So I think where we come in into the market is going to be those smaller to medium-sized businesses that are looking for relationships, looking for advice that just aren't getting them from larger facilities because they won't make those larger facilities money and they're not getting the one responsiveness that they typically would receive from a smaller community bank like ourselves, or really just aren't getting the level of financing that they need. I was listening back to the one you did with my boss Roy, and he was talking about how his customer just didn't he wasn't getting a line of credit increase even though he kept requesting one, and he needed help, but he didn't know where to go. And he showed Roy his financials, and Roy was like, "Well, here you go. This is your problem. Your financials aren't adding up. This is why they won't even have a meeting with you." But at a larger bank, they won't even sit down and talk to him and tell him that that was the issue going on. So I think a lot of where Cornerstone comes in is more on the advisory side. We want to build the relationship prior to just going after one-off transactions.
Yeah,
But
that's a really important point, because I've been a customer of Cornerstone for quite a while, and I was with Roy at a different bank, and that's where I first ran into Roy. And the bigger banks, they're fine institutions. They do a nice job. They really they serve the market that they serve best.
absolutely, yeah,
So it's not that, just because they're big names doesn't mean that they're bad institutions. It's just
no, not at all.
it's what is best, especially for the small and medium-sized business. When I started my business, my first business, I went to one of those larger banks where I bank personally and have for decades, and they denied me because I was a startup business, and it didn't matter. It just didn't work. Now, the interesting thing was they denied me from a loan perspective, but they wanted my depository relationship.
Yeah,
And it's like, well, wait a minute. Can you? I want to have a complete package, and Cornerstone is the kind of bank that is willing to, look beyond, maybe some of the core numbers and look a little bit, little deeper into the relationship, like you've mentioned, and really understand what's the trajectory here, what are we working towards, and provide that advice. So I've gotten some tremendous advice from Roy over the years, and he's just it's a real pragmatic, comfortable approach. It doesn't have to be
yeah,
this stuffy, highbrow kind of a scenario. So for the small and medium-sized businesses that need and would prefer some little better attention, it's awesome. You don't have to be a $10 billion organization to get attention like
yeah,
so.
absolutely.
And because there's so many small businesses in our country, it seems like if you want to grow a bank, that's the way to grow it. Focus
Yeah,
where you have the most amount of opportunity to diversify your customer base. So it's just so logical. You guys are doing a great job.
thank you. I appreciate that. I think one of the best compliments I get by far is when people are excited and happy that they get to work with our team. Obviously, you have with Dorothy and Carolyn, but they do a great job of assisting where is needed, and that's kind of where you get you're not calling an 800 number, you're calling the person, a person that has worked with you um, over the last few months or years or however long it's been, you have somewhat of a relationship with the people that you're talking to on the phone. Yeah.
And I wouldn't even say it's somewhat. I think there definitely is a relationship, and I'm going to share a story later on in the episode that impacted me directly, and I still think about it regularly, and I talk to people about it whenever the story of banking comes up, as I provide referrals and talk to my customers. And I'm going to share that a little later on in the show, but let's focus a little bit more on the broader Cornerstone and you specifically. Tell us a bit about your background and how you've come into the role that you're currently in, and what do you do for the bank? What's your role, and how do you help your clients?
Yeah. So I grew up in Palatine, went to Palatine High School, went to Indiana University from there, was uh, was going to school for finance and business analytics. Senior year rolled around, I didn't really have any prospects or anything like that. Didn't know what I wanted to do with these two degrees that I was getting. So 9 months roll around. We're in May now. During graduation. Still hadn't figured out what I was doing with anything. And I went to one of my friend's graduation parties. And this is really just a story of you never know who you're talking to.
Right.
Um,
Great story.
so I'm there having a few drinks, start talking to somebody. He asked me, he's like, "Oh, what do you want to do?" And I was like, "I don't know. I got a finance degree. I got a business analytics degree. I'm just trying to figure it out." Well, he's like, "You ever thought about going into banking?" I was like, "I mean, yeah, sure. Like, why not? That'd be fun," type of thing. And so we sat there and talked for probably the next 6 hours, spent the entire day together. And at the end of it, he goes, "Have you ever heard of Cornerstone?" I go, "Yeah, I grew up in Palatine. It's the castle on Northwest Highway." And he goes, "Oh, I think I could get you an interview there, like if you want." And I was like, "That'd be great." He's like, "Give me a call on Tuesday." And I was like, "Are you serious?" I was like, "You can actually give me an interview there?" And he goes, "Oh, hi, I'm Jeff Boundy, the president of Cornerstone National Bank." So I
Uh,
spent the entire day with him without knowing who he was at all.
yeah,
And it turned out working out for me.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's just that's a great story, and it really goes towards that law of authenticity. I mean,
mhm,
an authentic guy. He wasn't pompous, arrogant. He wasn't bragging about who he was or what he did or what business he owned. He was just
mhm.
talking to you like another human being. Almost like um, a concerned father talk to their son about, hey,
Yeah,
what do you want to, how do you want to what do you want to do with your life, kind of thing, and provide you some advice and insight, and then comes to find out that he owns this awesome bank, and it's a
yeah.
perfect fit for your background, your education, your personality. You grew up in the neighborhood. I mean, it's just everything kind of lined up just so.
Yeah, everything kind of fit in. So I go on, I have the interview the next week, and then the following month I started as a credit analyst doing our credit training program in the Palatine office. Worked my way up through that program for the first 2.5 years. And then I was promoted to lending officer, which I moved over to the Schaumburg branch, and now I've been working under Roy there for about 2 years. So all in, I'm about 5.5 years in at Cornerstone, and yeah, having that conversation was definitely the best thing that's happened to me so far. It's just a happenstance type of thing, but it all worked out. So.
Well, especially in a social setting, you know,
Mhm.
things could get goofy at times, could get fun, it can get crazy out of control.
Yep.
And in the reality was, you were being yourself, and
Mhm.
it's paid huge dividends. So it's got you a great career with a great organization and now you're working with small and medium-sized businesses now, right?
Yep. We're working with small to medium-sized businesses. mostly on the manufacturing, owner-operated real estate type of transactions that you typically see in a small to medium-sized business needs, lines of credit, that type of thing. But the main focus really is to try and build the relationships with the current business owners as well as try and help them meet what their goals are, whether they're trying to grow right now or they've reached that level of stability where they just want to manage their expenses and their um bottom line basically.
Right, right. So you do a lot with manufacturing, um, but you don't have any. Do you have any limits as to what type of businesses you will or will not work with?
No, I don't think there's any limit really on the small to medium size range. There are things that we just can't do, but that would be more so because we'd be limited by regulations as opposed to being able to. The problem with commercial lending and the pro of commercial lending is you can look at it globally. However, on a startup, a lot of times it's harder to get the historical type of benchmarks that you're looking for when you're lending money. But the good part about that is when you have a small business and a banker that knows people in the SBA and other programs like that, it's easy to get a referral out to that where they can start up and grow to a point where you can come back in and help them as they're growing.
Sure, sure. So you can kind of get started, and but build that relationship.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, okay, great. So you work with startups as well as established businesses?
For the most part, primarily established businesses. There are some special cases with startups, but a lot of the time on lending, you're going to need to show that 2 to 3 years of performance.
Mm,
That's just kind of industry standard.
sure, sure. Probably unless you put some significant capital behind you, right? Or collateral.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, good. But and you can so you finance real estate. So if the business owns their property, you can finance that.
Mhm.
Provide them a line of credit for their receivables, et cetera. Financing their equipment, maybe if they're buying vehicles or buying assets, buying
Mhm.
machinery, and then working capital, that sort of thing. And then obviously the depository, a checking account, savings account, that kind of thing.
Correct. Yeah.
Great, great. So tell us where so you have a location in Palatine, that's your headquarters. You have an office in Schaumburg. You have a few
Mhm.
other offices as well, right?
Yeah, so there's another commercial office in Naperville. So similar to the one in Schaumburg, it's not going to be able to we don't touch any cash in those. Those are just simply commercial offices.
Okay.
And we have branches in Deer Park, Crystal Lake, Palatine. Those would be the main three branches. Um,
Where you can make deposits and get
yes,
uh,
have tellers are there. There's yes, correct.
so Crystal
Um,
Lake, Deer Park, and Palatine. Those are the
in
three
Palatine.
full
Yeah.
service branches. Okay, great. And obviously you do remote banking as well. I mean, I have
Correct.
a machine here
Yeah.
at my desk where I deposit checks that I receive from my clients, so I don't have to necessarily go into the bank all the time.
Yeah, no. We
Which
try and just because of the locations that we are in, we try and make it very easy for our customers to deposit through RDC, mobile deposits, and everything like that. Obviously, those three locations aren't very centrally located to everybody. So, yeah, we have a full team.
okay. Do you anticipate expanding into other other locations, additional branches?
I'm not really sure. I don't know what the plan for the bank would be. The way that we've gotten our branches prior is that's just kind of where our lenders have lived. So that we've opened it up based on, hey, these are where our employees live, pretty much, I
Gotcha.
believe.
Gotcha. Cool. Well, that's awesome. Like I said, it's great to be able to work with a local business that really does value the relationship, and you know people personally, and you can get to understand who they are over time and grow with them. It's really valuable. So I applaud you guys for doing that. It may not be it may not be the most profitable way to do it, frankly. But
Yeah,
but in the long haul, it's extremely profitable. You know what I'm saying? But term, because you got more individuals. You're not outsourcing overseas and
correct. Yeah.
things that are or automating things to a point where you're taking the human out of the equation.
Mhm.
So there's cost involved, but I'm a firm believer, and I represent that in my own business. We're very hands-on in our business. I'm on site with my clients face to face, delivering units in person. Not because it's inexpensive. It's actually expensive to do that, but it's the right way to do it. It's how you build a relationship. It's how you differentiate yourself from the competition. So I applaud you guys for doing that. Um, so I want to take a quick break here, Kevin, and and when we come back, I want to get into a couple successes that you've had, a couple of kind of, if you can share for our listeners some details, not specific company details, but specifics about the types of solutions you've been able to provide that maybe shows the value of their relationship and how it's helped um, it's helped your clients out. It helped your business out, and something maybe that another bank may have declined. So just so our listeners can kind of get their arms around how you might be able to help them. And at that point, I'll share the quick story that I have as well about how Cornerstone helped me. But those successes I think are really important. So we'll get into that after the break. But before we do that, why don't you share your contact information with our listeners? A phone number, your email address, whatever it is. How do you want folks to reach out to you to get to know you?
Yeah. Phone number 224-567-2234. And then email will be kburke@cnbtc.bank.
Okay, so your phone number is 224-567-2234,
Yep.
and your email address is kburke, Burke, at CNBTC, which stands for Cornerstone National Bank and Trust Corporation, right?
Yep.
Bank. Your
Dot bank.
So cnbtc.bank.
Yep.
A little bit different nomenclature there. So great. Though that information will be up on the screen and it'll be in our show notes, so everyone can check that out and reach out to you. And certainly when you do reach out to Kevin, make sure you tell him that you heard about it here on I Got a Guy podcast. So all right, very good. Let's take a quick break. We'll be back and we'll continue chatting with Kevin Burke from Cornerstone National Bank. So be right with you.
Thank you for listening to I Got a Guy podcast. I hope you're getting a lot of knowledge from this week's guest. But now a word from our sponsor. If your business uses heavy equipment as part of its daily routine, sadly, I don't need to educate you on the reality that this equipment has been the focus of many local thieves either. Precise Fleet Tracking Solutions works with business owners that own commercial vehicles and heavy equipment. We help these business owners enhance their growth and profit through the use of GPS tracking technology. Recovering a stolen asset is just one way we contribute to the bottom line of the business. Our GPS tracking units used in heavy equipment are weather tight so they can handle the elements and even have an internal battery to continue to report its location should the battery in the asset be disconnected. We have several examples of the benefits of GPS tracking in heavy equipment. Reach out to Precise Fleet Tracking Solutions for a detailed discussion about our options and to see if it makes sense for your business. You can find Precise Fleet Tracking Solutions at precisefleettracking.com. That's precisefleettracking.com. Or call us at 847-865-6008. Precise Fleet Tracking Solutions. GPS tracking made simple. Now, back to the show.
Okay, we are back. Thank you for sticking with us. I am Michael Drelichars, host of I Got a Guy podcast, and we are visiting with Kevin Burke here from Cornerstone National Bank, headquartered in Palatine, Illinois. Kevin, thanks for being with us today. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
So, obviously before the break, we talked a lot about Cornerstone Bank and kind of your fundamentals and your foundation and your business principles and how you serve your customers and build those relationships. We want to talk now a little bit more about some specific successes and how you've been able to, it's like I guess be the knight in shining armor for some of your clients that really demonstrates the value that you bring to the table. Why don't you share a couple stories with us?
Yeah, I think one to start probably just happened recently. We had a client that was looking to trade in their old car, their work vehicle, trade it in, get some value on it, and then purchase a new one with that trade-in value. But there was about a airball of let's say like $20,000 that they were gonna have to come up with that day. Now they could have requested financing prior. However, sometimes that just is not crossing your mind at the time.
Sure.
Um, so they didn't have the financing in place prior. They they came to us and they were like, "Are we gonna be able to get this done today?" And I was like, "I don't know if we're gonna be able to get this done today." But you know what? We figured it out. So they had a line of credit in place that was at a zero balance. We were able to finance the car, let them take it home that day through funding on the line of credit. And then as we were able to prepare the documents that were needed for the actual term note that would be secured by the car, the following week we had that balance termed out using the term note that we replaced it with. All in all, say that the client got the car the day of. The financing wasn't technically in place until the week after, though we were able to work around it somewhat in a way that was happy for them and happy for us, where we were okay actually lending on that money.
Sure. So,
Um,
I mean, the customer got what they needed. They got the vehicle, and you were able to take care of the paperwork behind the scenes and get it done so that, you're also whole. I mean,
correct.
the
Yes.
bottom line is you need to be able to have the documents in place and you need to be able to, uh,
Yeah.
get that straightened out. But because of your flexibility, you guys
Or
you went around you circumvented your normal processes, I guess is what you're saying, right?
a little bit. But I don't, nothing that is like out of the ordinary. It's just, hey, this is available to you right now. You can use it. This is how you get your car basically
Yeah.
that day. And this is how we can work around it. And it's more working with the customer of being like, hey, we have a couple options for you. You can choose this one or this one, but we don't really, this is how you're able to get your vehicle today if you want it that day, that type of thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's great. I'm sure the client was probably very thrilled that you were able to be creative in that regard and get it taken care of.
Yeah.
That's great. Oh, that's awesome. What other stories do you have?
Lending only a couple of years now, not not too many stories. But no, I I think mostly what I've been trying to do this past year and a half, 2 years is just kind of grow the network and grow the relationship portion. I haven't had too many wins in the sense of, hey, I took this from another bank, like we were all looking at it and I was the one that won. I don't have that type of success stories now. I'd say the success stories that I do have are my ability to grow the relationships that I have had
Mhm.
over the past 2 years. I
Sure.
think with you as well as everybody else in the networking group, as well as my clients. Um, it's more so the comfortability that I've gained in everything. just with thinking I knew everything to knowing that I don't,
Hmm.
that type of thing.
Sure.
I think each experience has given me, whether it's a win or a loss, has given me just something to build off of.
Right.
And that's kind of where I look at it more so than, hey, this one's been bothering me, and I was finally able to get it over the finish line. I look at it more of, hey, what did I do to get it over the finish line? Does that apply to anything in the future? That type of thing.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely learning opportunities for you.
yes, exactly. And I think that's more so what I focus on than rehashing the wins. Honestly, I should do it more often than I do. But that's kind of those are the stories I think of more so than hey, this was something that I just really I'm so pumped I got this win, like type of thing.
Right, right.
If that
Well,
makes sense.
but the relationship is really an important component because
Hmm.
not every business has, dire financial needs all the time.
Yeah,
The problem
absolutely.
is that when it comes up, if you don't have a relationship, you've missed the mark. You have to have that
Hmm.
relationship planted and fostered and growing long before that need arises. So the fact that you've
Yeah,
only been lending for 2 years is is part and parcel to that whole concept. I mean, you have to build these relationships for years before you're in the right position,
yeah,
have that extra credibility with the clients to be able to be that knight in shining armor. So, and I know your bank has had many successes, even if you being relatively new in the
yeah.
business, you may not have experienced it. I know a couple years ago, I had a situation that came up where my email was hacked, and I didn't realize it. And I was on a customer's site, and I got a phone call from the bank, and Dorothy, who you mentioned earlier, called me, and she said, um, she goes, "I want to get authorization, verbal authorization for this international wire transfer." And I said, "There's no international wire transfer. What are you talking about?" She goes, "I got an email from you here that's saying that you wanted to transfer this money internationally." And I said, "No, I didn't send it." She said, "Michael, we've had these conversations. We've emailed back and forth. I know you personally. This is your email address. I know this email came from you." I said, "Dorothy, it didn't come from me. Somebody must have hacked my email because I never would have requested that. So please do not complete that transaction." And so, fortunately, she did not complete the transaction. And
Mhm.
that's because Cornerstone has a requirement for a verbal authorization on these types of things. Now, and the request was for $12,000. And in my small business, that $12,000 was a lot. And I'm
Yeah,
like, please don't send that money. Um, Now, conversely, I happened to go to my personal bank. It was either later that day or the following day, and this was still on my mind. And I was so grateful that Cornerstone protected me in this case. And so I was actually talking to a banker at this other bank, larger bank, and I explained the story. And I said, "How would that have happened here at your bank?" And the banker had said, "Well, it would have gone up to several different vice presidents before it was approved." I said, "But would you have ever called me to verify?" She goes, "Well, no, if we got an email from you, that's all we really need." I said, "Yeah, but if the
yeah,
email is fraudulent," she's like, "Well, that's the risk." I'm like, "Well, wait a minute, hold on. That is really a big deal."
yeah,
There are so many fraudsters out there that are hacking emails, and maybe this is why they keep doing it because they're successful at it more often than they're not. But I was so thankful that Cornerstone has the foundation and the belief that security is important. And yeah, it takes extra effort because Dorothy had to call me directly and get verbal live verification of this transfer. Took extra effort on her part, but I am so thankful that she did that and that was a requirement for Cornerstone Bank. So every time I have the conversation with somebody, and I network a lot, and I talk to my current customers about my network. I have lots of awesome business people in my network, and so I'm always looking for ways to introduce my business people and my referral network to my businesses. And and so when the topic of banking comes up, this story almost always comes up in conversation. And and it is a huge differentiator that I think is overlooked because people don't think about international wire transfers. I mean, most businesses,
People don't think about fraud until they have it happen to them a lot of times too.
right? They don't.
Oh,
It may happen to someone else, but it never happened to me.
yeah,
And so it's I have a firewall, and I thought that my email was well protected, but apparently somebody figured out how to crack my email, and I still to this day I don't know how it happened,
yeah,
but it happened. You know, they
yeah,
sadly these fraudsters are smart enough to be able to figure this stuff out. Um, and obviously they must be making an awful lot of money at it because otherwise they'd be doing a real job. But uh,
yeah. It's a
sadly,
big numbers game for them. So if they get one person to click, they send out the same thing 200,000 times, only one person messes up. That could still be their jackpot. So
yeah, it's all they
it's a
need.
big numbers game for the fraud.
Yeah,
Uh,
but
doers.
it's something that I tell every business owner that I can when the topic comes up that I think this is a question that every business owner should ask their bank because once that wire transfer happens, that money's gone,
Yeah, it's the only.
and you know and the bank doesn't have any liability there if that email looked legitimate and they approved it, they approved it. And well, maybe they do have liability. I don't know. I say that that they don't have liability. Maybe they do have liability, but boy, it sure would be a lot of work on the small business part to
Get
recapture
it back.
that
Um,
chunk of money, whether it was $500, $5,000, or $50,000. There's no reason somebody should steal that from anybody. And in
yeah,
small businesses, sometimes cash flow is tight. And this happened several years ago when my business was in its infancy. So that $12,000 that they were trying to steal could have been devastating to my business. But I'm just so thankful, and I know I've encouraged you to share that story with your customers,
yeah,
because and I don't know if other small banks have that philosophy in place. Maybe Cornerstone's the only one, but I certainly know that one of the biggest banks does not have the same security protocol involved in line like Cornerstone does, and it would have cost me a boatload of money if I had my banking with that other bank. So that's just kind of it's just really I'm very passionate about it because it was a lot of money.
yeah,
So thank you to
absolutely.
Cornerstone for that.
Of course. And I think it's also important. We try and advise all of our clients to go on positive pay and ACH positive pay. That's just a service where the customer themselves goes through and clears off every transaction. No, because they were the ones that made them. And if anything pops up, they can flag it. Um, so that's kind of a check and an ACH fraud solution as well. On the wire side, we do verbal verification for all of them. So
Yeah, that's great. Well, you know what? As a side note here, Kevin, make a note. We need to talk about that positive pay because I do have a few ACH clients, and I'm working on one right now actually for another client. So I want to make sure that we have that set. And so if you and I can take that offline, but security is just something that um, it has to be factored into every decision we make. And like I said, for small businesses, it could be devastating. So, anywhere we can do that and be safer, the better we all are. And so, anyway, I know, and like you said before, it's about the relationships. Because I've had a relationship with Dorothy for many years, we've
sure.
spoken on the phone many times, and we exchange emails. I wouldn't say frequently, but with enough regularity that you kind
Yeah.
of get a feel for. emails,
Or Zoom. Yep.
for the vernacular, the verbiage, that that kind of structure. And she was convinced that I sent that email. So we did a very
Yeah.
good job, Matt, and so anyway, but had it been a toll-free number, somebody from overseas calling me, I don't know. I mean, they wouldn't have known me who I was. And so it just made the whole situation more important because of that relationship.
Yeah.
So,
Absolutely.
but anyway, that was the story I was holding on for, because I wanted to share that with our audience. I don't think I've shared that. I may have mentioned it on Roy's podcast many months ago, but it's just really an important component that I think is overlooked. So
Yes.
I encourage everybody to be careful with that. Um, Business owners that I've spoken to about it, like they have a couple times said, "Well, I don't do anything international," so I would never come up. And I said, "Well, I don't do anything international either," but it came up. So you,
Yeah.
you can't be sure. You have to be careful. You don't just assume stuff like that. But again, that's where that relationship comes into play, and it's really important to be um, to value that foundation.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
I thank you for that. Well, cool. So what other stories do you want to share? Anything else you wanted any kind of specific business that you're maybe uh, off the beaten path, maybe a different kind of industry that you're targeting right now?
Um, I'm not really. I think you know this. I don't target a specific thing really. I think right now a lot of what I'm looking for is just first meetings, trying to get foot in the door somewhere, whether it would make sense for them to bank here or not, really. It's just kind of hey, I'd like to meet business people in the area. Um, and just see where the relationship could grow from there. Specifics, for the most part, we lend in between businesses of 500,000 to 50 million in revenue. So there's kind of a wide range of what we're able to do. But in terms of just people and things like that, I really don't have a specific industry or whatever. I'll take a meeting with anybody that wants to talk, whether it be about banking or how much the Bears suck. Like I'll be there for you. Um,
So
but
yeah. Well, we can leave the Bears topic aside.
yeah, we
Obviously
leave it
get the
out.
pressure
But
up, but from a business standpoint, yeah, I mean, I think that makes a lot of sense. Just to have
mm,
a conversation with a business owner, they may not have a need today.
no,
They may have a need 6 months from now, but you might get started with a line of credit, or
yep,
maybe it's a refinance. I anticipate interest rates may come down at some point here in the near term. So maybe refinancing their building might be appropriate, or or
mhm,
or if they're gonna, I do believe that we're gonna have a growth mode here in our country, and so maybe investing in new shop equipment, whether it be a CNC equipment or forklifts or conveyor belts or things of that nature. They may need to invest in that, and maybe the best way to go about that is to finance it. Maybe
yeah,
when the interest rates are 9%, maybe that's a difficult proposition to have. But if the rates come down to 6% or 5.5%, it might be a whole different ball game.
absolutely, yeah. I think I think that is probably where the growth's going to come from. I would say is doing those smaller transactions, getting the foot in the door, opening a deposit account, that type of thing.
Right.
Um,
And I recall back a few years back, several years back, sitting down with Roy talking about looking at my financials. Every time I meet with Roy, I share my P&L and my balance sheet as I did with you recently. And looking at that and looking for gotchas or things
yeah,
that jump out like, hey, you know what? You might want to focus on this area. If you can improve this, that'll make a big difference in how your financials look to the bank. So maybe today you don't need a line of credit. But the worst thing to do is need a line of credit and not be able to get it because your financials are out of line. And if you make a couple
Yep.
of tweaks, um, you might be able to your financials may improve drastically enough where if you do need a line of credit, now we're happy to do it. So that was something that I picked up from Roy. Just general advice, good sage, sound advice that was just, hey, as a friend, let's just, this is what you need to do to improve your situation. So you do that as well, obviously, right?
Yes, absolutely. That's kind of where the consulting advisory part comes in. We're not advising you how to run things or anything like that. It's more so of, hey, this is what the bank standards are. This is why other banks aren't being able
Right.
to give you funding or anything like that. You need to focus on a few things, work on getting that net profit number up, work on getting those operating expenses down, get your balance sheet in check, that type of thing. That's more of so the advice that we'd be giving. Hey, these are the standards that we need to be able to prove that we can lend money to you. And this is what we're looking for to do that. Those are conversations we have all the time, just on a this is what's happening right now. This is where we're going to need you to be at year end, where you're going to need to be for that next renewal, that type of thing.
Yeah, and that's very helpful. And I tell you, when I had looked at getting some financing from my prior business from a larger bank, um, the only response I got was no.
Mhm.
There was no explanation.
Know why? Yeah.
It was two letters, N-O. And so it was like, gee, so I have to fix something, and I have no idea what I need to fix.
Yeah. You don't know where to start looking.
And so that's where that relationship and the consultative approach that you guys take is really valuable. So to our business owners that are listening, I would encourage you to have a conversation with Kevin, even if you don't need a bank, even if you like the bank you're working with today, even if you have a line of credit and everything's perfect as you need. The reality is that things may change, and getting another set of eyes on it could make all the difference in the world and could be the catapult to the next jump in your business.
Yeah. 100%.
So I really do encourage you to reach out to Kevin and have that conversation and at least establish a relationship with him and share a few stories and kind of see where it goes. Awesome. Well, Kevin, we're going to wrap the show up here real quick, but let's share your contact information with the listeners again, your phone number,
Yeah.
email address, so they can reach out to you directly.
Phone number is 224-567-2234. And the email is kburke at cnbtc.bank.
All right. K Burke at cnbtc.bank. Okay. And that's a unique domain, the dot bank.
Yeah, we recently went over the probably about a year and a half ago. Um, I the reasonings for some security purposes, I guess, but I'm not entirely sure. It's just one day we were a dot bank.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I was like, all right,
I think it is a security because I think they're very it's very difficult to get that dot
the
bank
bank.
domain,
Yeah, it's like a edu, that
right,
type of,
right.
yeah.
As opposed to a dot com where everybody and their brother could have a dot com. So
Yeah.
I think fraudsters would have a harder time
Yes.
representing a dot bank domain, which I think is where that comes from, and anything we can do to help thwart those fraudsters, that would be all
Yeah.
everybody. But well, cool.
Absolutely.
So all right, so the information will be on the screen, it'll be in our notes, and I encourage our listeners to let Kevin know that you heard about him here on I Got a Guy podcast. All right, well, great. Well, thank you for that, Kevin. Let me just throw in a quick little word for Precise Fleet Tracking, which is my day job and how we pay the bills around here. But Precise Fleet Tracking Solutions, it is a small business focusing on serving the needs of other small and medium-sized businesses that have commercial vehicles. We help these business owners enhance their growth and profit through using our GPS tracking technology. And when you think about the costs that go into owning a fleet of vehicles, whether it be the vehicle itself, the fuel costs, the insurance costs, the operating costs, the maintenance, the repairs, the uh, the the equipment that goes in the vehicles, the least expensive component you have is a GPS tracking device. That GPS tracking device can provide a wealth of information should something happen. If the vehicle is stolen, we can provide you information on how to recover that vehicle. If there's some nefarious things going on, we can give you those details. If a driver is driving recklessly, we can share that detail so that you can coach and counsel your driver to be safer. And then just from an overall business perspective, as an owner, if you want to just know where your vehicles are throughout the day, you can look at a map and see where all your vehicles are and make sure that they're in the right places, doing what they need to do to grow your business. So it's a very, very inexpensive component in a very expensive array of items that go into owning a fleet of vehicles. So if you have a commercial vehicle with a logo on the outside, you should have a GPS tracking unit inside. And I encourage you to reach out to Precise Fleet Tracking Solutions to just get the conversation started. The best way to reach us, our website is precisefleettracking.com. That's precisefleettracking.com. Or call us at 847-865-6008. 847-865-6008. Just get the conversation started and see if it's a fit. No obligation. Uh, Minimum fleet size, one vehicle. Otherwise, you don't have a fleet. So one vehicle is all you need to get started, and we have many small fleets. And I love working with small businesses and startup businesses just to help you get started and get your arms around your assets. And love to grow with you as you grow and add more vehicles. So please reach out to Precise Fleet Tracking to get the conversation started. Okay. Well, thank you for allowing me to plug that. And like I said, that's how we pay the bills around here. But Kevin, thank you so much for being with us this week. And to our listeners, thank you for joining us. And we will look forward to speaking with you again very soon, hopefully next week. But in the meantime, make it a great week, and we'll talk to you guys soon. Thanks. Take care.
Thank you for listening to I Got a Guy podcast. For past podcasts and more information, go to igotaguypodcast.com. That's igotaguypodcast.com. Please share this podcast on your social media feeds and tune in again next week to I Got a Guy podcast.